What?
After the post-Marav Einfall.
The postman of Anfal, yeah, okay. What was the, how do we now?
Need to elaborate.
And you should know it's amazing, but you see what happens. You see what happens. Is this on, by the way?
This yes, this no.
Okay. But you see what happens, which is very interesting. Everything you create, it always has to be tentative, because it's going to be changed. As you add new materials, things reconfigure. You add new categories, you may take away categories. But you reconfigure categories, which is very interesting. And until you never know really what you're going to have until you get to the end of the Masechta.
At least it's a structure instead of a
what?
It's a structure instead of a cloud.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's always a structure.
I'm just saying that's the benefit.
Yeah. And then finally, when we get to the end, then you look at it and say, this is it. This is the final structure, which is fascinating to look at.
Because you're always
much
reviewing, though.
It's what?
When on a review on Chazara, you might see things that might still change the structure.
Oh yeah, of course.
So it's always going to be
subject to change. Yeah. When you look at something, see what you really look at. When you really look at something a while, whatever, you begin to understand. Wait a minute. I missed this relationship. I missed that relationship. You see, what you reconfigure in many ways is the relationship between ideas or halachas that you develop. That's what you don't always see. You see, so it's not so much do I understand the halacha better, but also, wait a minute, I understand the halacha better, and therefore the relationship changes to other things. Look, in the end, the whole thing is to reconstruct. I once told you, this whole method is nothing more than what's called reconstruction. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. The whole job of a jigsaw puzzle is reconstruct. That's really what it is. Okay, so how do we do it? What was the reconstruction, reconfiguration? No? Gentlemen?
As far as I wasn't there for that, but we went back to subject, action, object.
Yeah.
We did it for three different, for Kriya Shema, which is the text of Shema itself, for the extensions and for the expansions, I think, are the ways
yeah. Okay.
But do that for each one.
Yeah, so the board's not here, but if it ever does get here, what's going to happen? What?
Yeah.
What's going to happen?
Whiteboard.
What's going to happen is this. Just imagine there's a board, okay? So what's going to happen is on top you have the major categories, okay? And on the sides, you'll have the what's called the attributes or the categories. So so idea one. Remember, we're now we're on the horizontal, and here's the vertical. Okay. So in the horizontal one, you'll have the mitzvah of Shema. Okay, and the way it's the object of Shema is two pashas. The next thing over, you're going to have the mitzvah of Yetzias Mitzrayim, which is different than Shema. And the manifestation of that, as we know it, is Vayomer. And then next to that, you have the mitzvah of 7 Brochos. And the expression of that is these 7 Brochos. Okay? But they accompany the Shema. So you really have 3 different mitzvahs on top. Along the sides, they will have the same parameters or categories. When do you say them? Each one will have their own answer. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we have. We started off with the first mission of when. When what? So you're going to have when is Shema. We didn't get to Mitzrayim yet, but eventually we'll get there. And then when is the what do you call it? These the Brochos of Shema. You know what I'm saying?
But why do you have to
that will have when.
Why do you need to structure it like a chart?
Oh, okay. Thanks.
It is a chart. By nature, that's what it is.
But it's not, because each thing is a separate mitzvah. Within Shema.
Yeah, so you have 3 separate
structure?
mitzvahs, and on the side, on the vertical, you'll have the different attributes.
So why do you have to do it that way?
What do you want to have to do it that way?
That
theoretically, you could put the attributes here, and the mitzvahs here.
Each mitzvah, you have the 3 attributes. Each mitzvah has its own.
What 3 attributes are you talking about?
meaning whenever under Shema you split Shema into 3 mitzvahs. And under each mitzvah, that's where you start the whole process.
No,
Why not?
because Shema doesn't have 3 mitzvahs. It's only one mitzvah called Shema. It happens to also have, it's an aggregate. Shema is an aggregate because with Shema you mekayim 3 mitzvahs. That's an aggregate.
So
but there are 3 different mitzvahs. They are not the same.
What are the 3 again?
That's
First is Shema itself.
Shema,
Third is Mitzrayim. What's the
Yitzias
second one?
Mitzrayim.
What's the second one?
Yitzias Mitzrayim.
Oh, what's the third one?
The third one is the Brochos.
Oh, you mean that.
I mean, it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan.
Yeah,
Fine.
But each one is looked at
each-
by its own mitzvah. This chart is focused on the mitzvah. And
Yeah, you
parts of the
can't put
mitzvah.
Shema and then you have 3. I mean, because then it sounds like there are 3 subsections to Shema. There isn't. There are 3 different mitzvahs. They all happen to come together.
Just
So how would you-
They come, but that doesn't make them.
So how would you structure that chart? I mean, how would you structure? You start out with Shema, right?
You need the bud?
That'll work.
Is make believe, right? On the top, which is the horizontal, right? So you'd have Shema.
Right.
There's a mitzvah Shema.
Right?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Then here's a mitzvah of Yitzias Mitzrayim.
Well, so you don't group them together under the conglomerate of Shema.
No, exactly, because they're individual mitzvahs. They happen to come together.
So
So
then
there's
why-
an association. But
So then why
wouldn't
would
want- you can't put
why would you
Shema-
associate them
you
in one
cannot
chart
put
in the
Shema
first place?
here and then 3
You
things.
could do 3 separate ones.
You see what I'm saying?
Why would you? But why? But now that we're saying that, why would you put them all together in one chart in the first place?
Because they all come together in one reading, Kriya. When you are Kure, Shema, you're also Kure the Brochos before, and the
But then-
Yitzias Mitzrayim. It's
but
an
then you-
aggregate.
But then why can't you push it a level up to the umbrella? You don't want to call it a mitzvah, but the umbrella.
Because then you
activity
get the
called
false
Shema.
impression that they're all part of Shema. They're not. There are mitzvahs that have subsections. But this is not that. All these mitzvahs are what's called accompaniments. But they're not subsections. There's a big difference between the two. You understand what I'm saying?
There's
That's
Shema,
why.
what we call Kriya Shema, meaning the first 2 parshas is Kriya Shema.
Yes, correct. The last
And
one.
the only reason we're bringing the other 2 is because Chazal stuck them all together.
Yes, Chazal stuck them all together. I use that expression.
So,
Well, Chazal decided
therefore,
that, and there are reasons. That
you can't put Shema as the main umbrella mitzvah because it's not.
Exactly, it's not. You don't want to have Shema and then 3 subsections of Shema. That's not what it is. It's true that it comes together with Shema. You see what I'm saying? But you don't want to do that because it's a false impression. You're going to want to put each mitzvah together, right? And then when you put in some, and what you can do, you could put, 3 separate mitzvahs, right? And on top of that, you could put mitzvah Shema as an aggregate.
That's what I meant.
Fine, but you have to say.
I meant eliminating Shema,
You,
the aggregate, the umbrella. Obviously, you wouldn't be denoting that this is the mitzvah.
fine, then that you could do. Yeah.
Just, I
But
would,
again, it becomes clear.
for me personally, it would work better if I see an entire instead of a chart.
Yeah, but you have to clearly indicate
Right. No.
that Shema
obviously.
now has a new
Obviously.
kind of title, which is called Shema umbrella or
Right.
Shema aggregate.
Right.
And then you put down separate mitzvahs, and on the side you have the attributes. Yeah.
We could, in theory, although it's more of a tenuous link, include tefillah too, because once you're doing the brachas, there's a connection between the
Tefillah,
brachas.
you mean Shemona Esrei?
So it's not
Yes.
part of Shema.
But once you're doing the brachas, then there is a din to be soymech gula tefillah, the last bracha to tefillah.
Yeah, but then
It's
you're
not,
gonna
it's not a happenstance connection. I mean, you could go further.
then you might as well do
tefillah, and then put tefillah, and I'm saying
exactly.
You could
Then you're
whole
gonna put
trust-
down.
whole trust there,
Yeah, but no milk. 3 sweet and loaves? Thanks. But if you do that, if you're going to put tefillah, tag it on as, 1, 2, 3, and then tefillah, you're going to have to tag on Psukkah de Zimra. And you have to tag on, because Psukkah, again, Psukkah de Zimra is something which is a hachonah for Shema. And if you can do that, you're going to have to tag on the Birchas HaShacha, etc., etc. You get quite you theoretically could do it. I'm not against
No, but there's no limit. We could include the whole Shas.
No. Because then you have
It's all text,
Kriyas
it's all
Torah,
text.
because
Yeah.
Kriyas Torah
Yeah.
Shachas. I mean, look, I want to tell you something. If you want, you could do it this way. You could put down Shachris. Shachris simply means the morning prayers.
Right.
But and then what you
Then
do
we do
underneath
marriage.
that, then you can have each one, theoretically, you may want to develop that, and then on the side you'd have all the attributes. Yeah. But then it
I
wouldn't
wouldn't do
be
it that way,
called.
but I'm just saying.
It's an
But is
interesting
it connect-
idea.
I'm saying-
Actually, it's not a bad idea, because what it does, right? What's the major function of a structure? What is its major function?
To hold information.
Relationship.
Clarity.
Who?
Clarity, connection.
Clarity is a goal, but what's
Right.
the major function? He
Create
said
relationship.
relationships. Yeah, it's not just to see what a thing is, but how does everything relate to everything else? A structure is the ultimate synthesis. So theoretically, what you suggest is an interesting idea. In fact, maybe that is ultimately what you're going to do. It's Shema would be, it's under the chakras, you'd have the mitzvahs, but under each mitzvah you'd have chakras, and then you'd have the Shema aggregate. You see, and you'd have, let's say, the tefillah aggregate. Thank you.
You prefer this or this?
It was the same. Was it equal? It was the same. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You see the
That's
Masechtas
not
Brochos.
caffeinated, is it?
Right.
Is that caffeinated?
I'm not sure.
You check.
Well, check. Or else.
You see the Masechtas Brochos does in a way do that. It does put,
Yeah, it does. So, what you suggest actually, maybe that eventually that's what it would be. Why? Because chakras itself is a unit, which is divided into mitzvahs, and each mitzvah, some of them are aggregate mitzvahs, some of them are singular mitzvahs.
But what's coming
But the chakras is the ultimate aggregate, right? And then Shema itself is a subsection, which is an aggregate. You see what's happening here, right? So really what you're saying probably is the way to go.
So the common
But you have to clearly know that chakras is the ultimate aggregate,
I mean,
and so on. Yeah.
well, you probably want to include Marek too because you have Shema twice.
Well-
I'm just saying, you have to figure out a way to do it that way.
You have chakras with Chemara. I mean, you could do that. Yeah, you could do that.
Finish one. I mean,
I mean, the daily avoid, I mean, you...
No, not the way. It's the text. I mean, the common denominator is the text we have to decide. That's what counts. We don't include the whole way.
This is all part of the attributes. What is the object of the mitzvah? How is it? What's the performance, the object itself? What's the performance? In this case, what's the performance? Right? It's kriya, recitation, is the performance, right? Then you have when, where, how, in what manner, you see. So you'd have all the attributes on the side, and just to keep things simple, right now we're just doing the Shema aggregate. Once you have that structure figured out, because that's the first three program, then you can add the next, which is the tefillah aggregate, if there is one, The beauty of that is you've included what? What do you include in this structure? The PI, the preliminary ideas, right? Plus the Mishnaic statements. You see, because remember, half the ideas in the structure is PI, believe it or not. People just discount that, they don't even think that. But the preliminary ideas to a Mishnah, sometimes it could be 7 of them. Each one itself is an important halacha, except that the Mishnah doesn't talk about it. Rebbe decided to begin at a certain point, not at the beginning. But that doesn't mean the previous points are not important or not part of a structure. You see? So ultimately you'd have is a structure, of the Mishnah and so on, that is a totality. That would be incredible. It's a totality. And you can chaza the whole thing in 15 minutes. Because it's a diagram, you see. So you're not only chazering the structure, you are chazering at the same time the Mishnahs. Because you link, each Mishnah halacha is linked to where in the structure. So when you walk away, you have an incredible understanding of the relationships of the entire Masechta with all its parameters, its attributes. It's a view that's, I can only use the word stunning. And you'd never forget the Masechta. Once you look at that, you will never forget. And if anybody ever talked to you about anything, immediately you know where to refer to.
How would you remember the place in the Mishnahs itself? How would you remember this is Parak Beis Mishnah Daled? Because once you're doing this, it's all based
It's structure.
structured based on mitzvah.
Well, because you can also, remember, you can also structure the Mishnahs. You say the first 3 prokim deal with Shema. And then you could break that down. You see, the next two deal with tefillah. In other words, you would organize. It's more organization than structure, actually. You would organize the
You would
mishnayos,
synthesize.
whereas you structure the halachas. So you link them. So ultimately, you're looking at, let's say, two ideas. You're looking at the ultimate structure, and you're looking at the organization of the mishnayos topically. You see, the topics of, and so on, and through the link you see. That is your goal in every Masechet in Shas. You're going to have 63 diagrams ultimately, and you can chazar the entire Shisha Siddur Mishnah in 1 week, no problem. You can do it 52 times a year. But remember, if you do that, you are an Odom Gadol. You really are. Because you will know between 100 and 150,000 ideas of Kol HaTorah Kula. There's not many people that can lay claim to that title. Got it? That's a goal. It's worthy. Because you'll never forget the diagrams. And best thing to do is, got kids?
Do it. Yeah.
Well, no, you got kids, you know what I'm saying? Make a what do you call that? A glossy, what do you call that?
Laminated?
What?
Laminated?
Yeah, you laminate it and just put it all over your house. So from now on, when your kids are walking in the hallway, there it is. The totality of the structure of, let's say, Brochos. So they'll glance at it and look at it, and you can fancy it up, with a computer you can make all different colors, and so on. You can really make it beautiful. And
The
so
Rebbe won't know what hit him.
What?
The Rebbe won't know what hit him.
No. What's incredible? They'll know Kol HaTorah
I
Kula.
think we should meet once a week.
You hear the goal?
Meet this.
You hear the goal? You guys are young enough. You do this. This should be your focus, really. And then once you have that, and you learn Shas, Gemara, it's a different Gemara. Besides the fact that you know 40% of Shas. Just like that. Because Mishnah is fundamentally about, as I once mentioned, it's about 40% of Shas.
Right.
Well, what's your reaction to what I just said? How's it sound?
It sounds great.
Mashiach is around.
I need to do it.
Who?
Mashiach is around. Mashiach is around the corner. That's how it feels.
Mashiach is around the
Yeah.
corner.
That's how it feels.
Yeah, this is what should be taught in every yeshiva. What's the big deal? You do take a year or two to teach in yeshiva. A guy's 16 years old. He knows Kol HaTorah Kula. 150,000 halachas. And then but the Gemara will be secondary, and this will be primary. And then once he has that, then Gemara becomes primary, and it's a totality, It's a... Look, in the end, there's one... What's the goal of education?
6 goals.
Who? What's the goal of education?
Information.
Who?
Information?
No. Success. What does success mean? Remember these ideas. The goal of education is to be successful. The question is, what does success mean? And it means mastery. To master the thing you are learning. How many people have mastery really? There's so many people who fail and so on. Then you ask yourself, well, what's mastery? Then you have the 6 ideas: clarity, depth, comprehension, retention, efficiency, and applicability. That's mastery. And,
How to remember all 6? Like
how do you
this.
remember all 6?
I don't remember everything.
No, they flow. If you realize, I just gave you logical order.
No, we didn't realize.
Well, first is clarity. You have to be clear, but then how deep are you? Then there's depth. Okay, I clearly understand the ideas and I understand it in depth, but how do I connect it to everything else? How comprehensive am I? Right? So that's it. Clarity, depth, and comprehensiveness is the thing itself and how it relates. But I have to remember it. That's retention. But I don't want to spin my wheels. If I could do it in 1 hour, why should I do 8? Because in the other 7 hours I could be doing something else in Torah. So that's called efficiency. But if I just have the theoretical knowledge, now what am I going to do? So I have to be able to apply it. That's applicability. See, it's a logical sequence. That's it, I believe that the Torah world would be different if they had done this first.
So we're doing the first Masechta Brochos now?
Yeah.
So we'll do it differently in Brochos.
Well, we're doing it now. We're reconstructing it. Okay, so actually, this is
This is not. This is like before.
We just have Shema, we don't have
This
aggregates,
was
but
before,
whatever.
before the end
is
of
this
Mariv. This was
subject.
before
No, we changed it.
Yeah, we changed.
Yeah, you want to erase it?
The whole thing.
Let's.
Actually,
What's
this
that
you can keep.
No, we have,
This you can
Oh.
keep, but just erase this. Erase this. You have erased
Why
it?
should I erase it?
Because you see what?
Don't ask questions.
That's right.
Okay.
That's it. Oh, then stop. Now put here Shema aggregate,
Yeah.
because we are now, Shema is the unit and it's divided because
So
therefore
there's
it's an
three.
aggregate.
There's three mitzvahs now.
These are the three mitzvahs. Essential text is Shema. That's two parshas.
Okay.
The expansion is the mitzvah called Yitzias Mitzrayim, Zecher Yitzias Mitzrayim, and the extension is the Brochos. So we just use different wording.
Okay. So here we have.
Is the Shema. The Shema
Parashiyos.
itself.
Two parashiyos.
Two parshas, yeah.
Okay. Then we have expansion,
Which is
the-
Yitzias
by
Mitzrayim,
Yitzias-
Zecher, Zechiras Yitzias Mitzrayim.
Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yeah.
Then we have the extension, which is the Brochos that accompany.
Brochos.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the attributes. Okay. Got it?
Right. However, under this, under each one, there is object, subject. I think it's two.
Is it to aggregate?
Yeah.
AGG?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know. Whatever.
Oh,
Anyway, there you are.
excellent.
And here, so here, well, action, and then you have, the action itself, then you have, let's see, when, where, how, the effect, and then you have subject. You see?
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, and with all the attributes come down, whereas the fundamental mitzvahs go across. See where it looks? That's it. That's the structure for this, and as was pointed out, then this, you'd have further out, on top of that, you'd have, Shachris, and then underneath Shema, on the left would be Tefillah, and on the right, let's say, Sukkot Zimra or whatever. You see, you go higher, and therefore you embrace more things.
And I still have the attributes.
Same thing, because the
that go-
attributes will be true, by and large, of everything across.
But in many structures that we discussed.
Everybody see the way it is? There you are. It's a beautiful diagram, exactly, of the structure of what's going on. Good, okay.
In many diagrams, you tell me to put the attributes.
No, so
It depends. It depends on the diagram.
Yeah, right now, this is the best way. The
For this one.
major ideas on top, and down the line are the parameters of the attributes.
Okay.
See? Now, we filled in. We already learned in the first two Mishnah is what? First Mishnah we learned what? When is Shema? Yes?
When,
So
correct.
put down
AM PM.
on the when by Shema, the text.
There's AM PM. Right.
Yeah. So you have the Shema is when. So under the when, well actually, when. Frequency is twice, and there's Zman for each one.
Right.
Seis and 3 shitas, and for chakras, it's 2 shitas, and for ending, it's also 2 shitas. You see how it works? And that's just when. So the first 2 Mishnayos was really when. Yeah, it's going to get a little loud. You know what we really need?
Software.
A who?
Software.
No, which is phenomenal. But it must cost a fortune, a smart board. You can actually take a board and just move
things
everything around. You ever seen one of those things? It's incredible.
Only $4,000.
Is that what it is? A smart board. Are there smart boards that are vertical or is it horizontal?
Oh yeah, they're vertical.
You just mount them. I'm
What?
Sure.
Yeah.
Or you mount them, yeah. So,
Sure, they've mounted.
and you know what? Because you can
Yeah,
enlarge,
600.
you can go like that, enlarge the box, and then you can write in, and you just move the boxes around. It's an incredible thing.
Actually, the
Okay, who's going to kick in $4,000?
the Nook Nookie
You
made
sure you need to have?
Well, we need a donation.
You
What?
can't do that with a regular laptop?
It's not. Yeah, but a smart board, you could do that with. You need the mouse, and unless you have the touch.
Or even an iPad, you can't do it with an iPad?
I don't know.
Good.
I don't know. I'm not
It
familiar.
seems like an iPad has the software
Anyway,
to move things
I
around.
don't know, but anyway,
1500.
the Nook Nookie.
because that lends itself perfectly to what we're doing, to be able to instantly create and modify.
Yeah, but any tablet could do it,
Yeah,
and then from the tablet you just project it. It's not a big.
yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
We don't really need a smartphone.
Anyway, okay, so that's the first Mishnah. We now see what the first Mishnah is, right? Where does the first Mishnah fit? It fits on the Shema, the essential text, and on the when. And you just fill in the information, and you put down Mishnah 1.
So there's gonna be
see?
subject.
That's how we've now created a structure where we can now identify every halacha in the Mishnah, where it fits, right?
Well, you really need subject.
Well,
Object,
subject, yeah, you could, well, we could
Action.
rearrange, exactly, yeah. We didn't do that.
performance and effect. These
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
four
exactly.
main-
You could play around and organize the list itself.
Right.
Exactly. We didn't do that subject.
Yeah. Object,
Yeah. Well, on the subject itself, you'd have A and B.
of course.
Who is obligated and who's exempt. You know what I'm saying? It's A and B. You'd subdivide the subject.
Right, exactly. Okay.
Obligated and exempt.
Meaning really subject should be here, obligated exempt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you play around? Did everybody see what's happening here?
We need Hanan. Hanan likes to do these things. Who obligated.
But look at the value of this. You're not going to go through all the Mishnahs and just figure out where and just put it in. There you are. And you look at this. How long did it take to read this? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? And you will have gone through 3 prokim in 5 minutes. It's astounding what a structure will do. Okay, great. Okay, a second mission is what? Again,
PM.
text, when, but on the frequency it's twice, so there's a shachris. So you got the when of the shachris. Then we come to the end of the second Mishnah, right? And we've got Hakorim Kan B'ilach. You know, so we're out of the essential, we're into the extension, which is the Brochos that accompany, right? And it says Hakorim Kan B'ilach Lo Hifsit, right?
Also when.
Which is also when.
When, just for
exactly,
the...
exactly. There you are.
So what we did over here, this is the object. Meaning, usually
No,
action.
no,
Where's object over here?
Shema, no?
No.
The object, well, you see, here's what we do. In Shema, we don't have a separate, you'd have, Shema is the aggregate, then you have 1, 2, 3, the mitzvahs. One is Shema, the other is, like I said, it's Yis Mitzrayim, and you could have either in there or another box that has what is the object of the mitzvah. So
the
one is
object-
Shema and so on.
Right, the object could fall into one of those over here.
Yeah, but your object should come first because it's
Yeah, so we'll put object first.
Object
and
is
then
text, what-
object is
subject
first. Then no. Well, yeah, you
or
could.
action.
What do you call object? Is text?
I before I get to subject, even though subject is important, but that's the main thing is object and performance. And then you can write subject, where, when, and so on.
And then effect.
Yeah, because you don't get you need a handle on the mitzvah. Subject, who's obligated?
What do we call
What's he obligated in? I mean, you need a handle.
Yes.
So the handle is object and performance,
Okay.
or in your case, action.
Okay.
And then you have subject, where, when, and so on. That's a logical listing of what we have. But now we begin to see that every mission is going to fit in one of those things.
Yeah.
There you are.
What's object is text, right? What's
Object is text, yeah. I call it object, but it's really, in this case, the object is a text. In other cases, the object could be a sukkah, or a lulav, or tefillin. Different objects, you see. Okay, so the last part of the second Mishnah is that. See, isn't that astounding? After 2 Mishnahs, we already developed a whole structure, really for the whole Masech, it's a Brochos.
I mean, it's tefillah and
It's
other
also going to
Brochos.
fit there. Tefillah is also, because really in the end, Tefillah is
I mean,
what?
it's a different object, whatever, but there's also.
That's all, exactly.
It's also text.
That's
in a
right.
sense.
It's text.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of everything, what are you going to write? When we're going to have a whole structure of Brochos Hanenim. Yes. So what are you going to do with Brochos Hanenim?
Where does it belong? Over here? It's something else.
No. No, you got to remember. You got to go up. So it's not Shema, not Tefillah. You're right.
Verbal declarations.
Verbal declaration, isn't it? Those mitzvahs which are verbally declarations. So in the end, that's going to be the top, and the whole Shema and Tefillah is going to be sub, and then you're going to have verbal declaration of what? Of Brochos, but it's for a different reason, you know. It's right.
These are just driven by time. Those are driven by certain experience. Something like that.
It's
It's
exactly.
activated differently in a sense.
Yeah, it's exactly. The cause is not a time factor. It's a
Experience,
an activity
event,
factor.
activity.
You want to engage in an activity called eating. You need to make a bracha. So you'd have different causations. In fact, that would be one of the boxes. What causes it?
There's 8 things.
Yeah.
It's another attribute. What's its causation? You see?
There's
So
8.
what?
There's 8 altogether.
It could be more. I'm just, we're just at the second, and we already see what's going on already. You see?
I think one of the very important things, Rabbi Kessin, is that basically the analysis. What you're telling us over here is that once you create the structure, the analysis is in the structure. Meaning, next time we see a Mishnah, we don't have to go through the
Yeah, exactly.
We just drop it.
List.
We drop it in the
You
cell.
just drop
Cell's ready.
No,
Excel. Yeah, you can use the word cell.
Meaning
yeah.
we just drop it straight in
what
in the structure.
Cell is a good
because
idea.
the structure has already
Yeah. Yeah.
all the analysis points to look for.
That's
Exactly.
that's the beauty of it, right? In the beginning, it's a lot of work, but then it just
In the beginning, because remember, what's the major work here?
in the beginning it's major work to develop the structure.
In the beginning, you're analyzing, but really, what you really do want to do is not just to analyze. You want to synthesize the structure, so you have tentative.
I mean, this
things.
is both. We broke it down and we put it together.
Exactly.
That's what we did.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Got quick it out.
It so beautifully fits in that Gemara about Rabbi Akiva, how he.
Yeah, use a sword.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we
I'm
should
sure.
pro-
Hopefully, Rabbi Kiva would have nachas.
Probably we should quote.
From
We
this
should quote
year.
it. We should quote it.
Oh, Rabbi Kiva.
Yeah. We should
Yeah,
quote
it's
the
in
Gemara.
Pirkei Novus Reb Nosson.
Eliezer.
It's famous. It's not famous.
What is it?
In Ovos to Rebbe Nosson, which is the brisa of the Pirkei Avos. That's what it is, really, right? So Ovos to Rebbe Nosson, it's really a Tosefta of Pirkei Avos. So if you look at, I think it's Perek Yud Ches. So it says, Ma bein Rabbi Akiva. What was the difference between Rabbi Akiva and everybody else? I don't know if I'm quoting it exactly, but that's basically what it said. So it says everybody used to go out, right, and gather the wheat, the barley, and all that kind of. They use an example. Used to gather the wheat, the barley, the rye, oats and spelt, whatever, right? Used to come home, and that was it. But Rabbi Akiva used to go and gather everything, come home and sort them. Wheat, barley, rye, oats and spelt. Robs. You see, and so what do you mean sort them? What does that mean? Sorting is a procedure of grouping. You group, yes?
Yeah.
And grouping, in many ways, is the first step of... Is
Synthesis.
grouping analysis? Or is it synthesis?
Synthesis.
Exactly. But synthesis has two things. There's grouping and there is... What's after grouping? You analyze, you group,
Connection.
and then you structure. Structure. That's what you want to do. So the Brisa clearly states that Rabbi Akiva used to group. And I'm sure after he grouped it, he structured it.
I mean, in order to group, you have to first analyze. You first
Yeah,
have to
or,
like,
yeah.
or else you don't know what to
Separate.
group.
Break down and
Exactly.
put together.
Because remember,
different
every
things.
group has what's called what? In order to group something, what do you have to know?
the common
The common
denominator.
denominator, the what's called the group idea.
Definition of a class, in a sense.
Well, you want to know the idea that organizes the group. If you want to group cars, Well, it's got to be cars and so on.
Yeah.
But structure, so the relationship of a group is what? Is that one idea. But a structure is much greater than a group, because a structure itself can have individual groups.
And they're all related.
So they're all related on what's called a structural idea. And you got to find that, you see. If I ask you what's the structural idea of the human body, what would you say? What is the key concept of the human body? Remember, we have a whole bunch of systems. Digestive, circulatory, right? Neurological, excretory, hormone. What is the fundamental idea in the human body? That sounds.
We all enjoy it, but
You better believe you enjoy it. Exactly. What is it? Shimon, come on.
What is the fundamental idea?
Yeah, that. Well, do this.
Systems.
What's the fundamental idea of a system? Let's say circulatory system.
Right. To
What's
perform a
the-
function.
it should function.
What?
To perform a certain function.
What's the function of the circulatory system?
To bring
Move blood.
to
Or?
move
Move?
blood, to move oxygen-rich blood to certain places, and
To deliver
Return off.
nutrients and to take away the waste.
That's what it does, but what's its fundamental idea? You guys are right, but not enough. What's the fundamental function of the circulatory system?
Circulate the blood? Is that?
No. Of course it does that. I mean,
Right.
obviously it does that. But that's not its fundamental idea. I mean, you could say that all those components that are necessary for circulation.
Is that
You're
life?
right.
Life,
You'd be right. But
life is a
why does it want to circulate blood?
life to allow life
Well, it's too broad.
to grow.
Transportation. Transports the nutrients. It's delivery.
Who needs the nutrients?
Cells.
So therefore, ultimately, what is it really? It addresses the needs of the cell in terms of all the ingredients that a cell needs to survive.
FedEx.
FedEx.
Hope not.
Yeah, but better FedEx.
So,
Yeah. And what cells need things, ingredients to survive. So the circulatory will bring it to them, right? But it's also got to get rid of stuff, so it'll take away. So the fundamental idea of a circulatory system is to meet the needs of the cell to survive. You know? Yeah, of course, and then fundamental, okay, well, the circulatory is the delivery system. You know what I'm saying? And therefore, yeah, that's how how you look at each thing, you know?
so when do we get to the whole body? Like what is?
Like, what's the function of the
functional?
the whole body?
Yeah,
Support life.
support life.
Support life. That's the function of the human systems. Now, what do you do with your life? That's religion. You know, okay, I'm alive, now what? You know, so in comes the Rabbanu Shalom, God, and says, okay, here's what I want you to do with the life I just gave you. In other words, I just supplied you with the wherewithal or the mechanism that you will live and be conscious. You see? Now, what do you do with it? That's called purpose. That's religion. Anyway, let's get back to Brochos. Okay. So we have the Brochos, lo yivsit, becoming karbatorah. So therefore, the when of Brochos exceeds the when of Shema.
Yeah.
And the Mishnah offers a rationale, ka'adam karbatorah. That seems to be the governing principle. If it wasn't ka'adam karbatorah, apparently you wouldn't be doing this. There would be no extension of the Zman. You know. So then you have to interpret, well, what does ka'adam karbatorah mean? Clearly that seems to be a rationale or a principle for the extension in time of the brachas and so on. So that you can look at it different ways. I mean, maybe because when you read Shema in the Torah, right, it has a significance. So as long as it has a significance, you're okay with the brachas. That's the way I look at it. Okay? Okay, next Mishnah.
So just in terms of method again,
Yeah.
we did this. I mean, we've done this with still the Mishnah analysis, so to speak, things looking for the statements. We haven't done the halacha analysis. Are we just saying that we did it really as we were going along? As we were going along, we sort of did it, or
You're talking about
the case conduct?
no, we didn't do that.
I mean, so
Yeah, we
would
could
you
go
have
back.
to do it every time, or we could just sort of did it while we were doing the statements?
You know, in the end, you want to cover it all, but sequentially, you have to do it first, second, or third.
Well, we haven't done it at all. I'm saying.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, because I'm so busy trying to figure out a structure, where everything fits, and then you go back to the beginning, like we did the first mission,
That's right.
So, then we say, okay, what determines the case? Okay, we know the case is, Shema Shachris. That's the case. You know what I'm saying? What's the conduct? Either Mishiakir or Tchelis Dekati. That's the conduct of when. And what's the conduct of how long? So we have Netz and Rabbi Yeshua, And of course, what's the principle of the conduct? And the answer is Ufkumecha. Majority or total.
Right.
You see, so you have case, conduct, and principle. Yeah, you'd go back. Yeah, we haven't done that, but
Well, that's more in the structure in the Mishnah itself. Structure. You said it's two structures. There's the structure of the mitzvah, and then there's the intra-structure of the actual
halachas.
Mishnayos or halachos.
The halachas, yeah, which is that's the case, conduct, principle, essential conditions, derivation,
Right.
and so on.
And that the principle, unfortunately, does not fit in the structure.
No,
It's a different
it
structure of
could
principle.
fit into structure. We haven't put it in.
Okay.
You would put it in. Yeah, exactly. You would not leave that out. So, for instance, the principle of Shachris, Shema B'Shachris. We know where Shema B'Shachris fits, right? On the Shema Shachris Shema, when, and you'd put in parentheses the principle,
The principle.
and the principle would be
Ukumecha.
Uvkumecho. Basically, it's a pasuk.
You're having the derivation and the
You could put all
principle
that.
being the same.
Yeah, you could put all that in a parentheses. Your diagram would be bigger, you see. But everything theoretically, all that case, conduct, principle, and what do you call it, derivation, authority, whatever, so on and so forth, would fit in the exact same place. You know what I'm saying? So that would be the breakdown of each answer, each value. That would be its breakdown. So in the end, you're looking at a diagram that has both the synthesis and all the analysis in one diagram. And it's all arranged beautifully in an incredible relationship. You know what you're really constructing? You're constructing a symphony. That's what a guy who does, composer. When he composes something, what is he doing? There's a beginning, there's an overture, then there's a development of the theme that he introduced in the overture, and then there's a finale. I think it's called a cadenza or whatever, I'm not sure. A symphony, it has a structure. It doesn't sound like that, but it does. If you're into musical theory, it does. It has a whole, structure to it. It has phases, So in that sense, it's the same thing. But in the end, what does it come out to be? A beautiful symphonic piece. Same thing. This is really a symphony. It's a conceptual symphony. If you want to use that word, you do the same thing. You see, so you're putting all the ideas of the halacha into the diagram, and in the end, you've got this incredible diagram. What is that? Oh, what is that?
This is what you quoted.
Oh, it is. Oh, how'd you get it? You have it? You able to?
No.
That's a no problem.
Didn't realize you were looking.
It's not.
Here you go.
This is not gonna. It's not lucky.
Yes, you're opening
Oh,
for a
actually,
page.
what was Rabbi Akiva
not
like?
lucky.
This is this is the exact quote.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good. What was Rabbi Akiva like?
Yes, go back behind.
A worker who goes out with his basket. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
A worker goes out. Uh-oh. How do you get back?
No.
Newfangled technology.
Give him the Gemara.
You have to go like with satellites, like millions of miles out.
From the back of his head.
What did I press if the light goes off?
Nothing. You didn't. Yeah.
What was Rabbi Akiva like? A worker goes out with his basket, he finds wheat, he puts it in the basket, Barley, he puts it in. Spelt, he puts it in. Beans, he puts it in. Lentil, he puts it in. Okay, what is that activity called? Gathering. He gathers the information.
Got the database.
Right.
Well, he gathers the information. Okay, he puts it in. When he arrives home, he sorts out the wheat by itself, barley by itself. But
There is a button.
Which one?
Just press it right there. On top. Yeah.
oh, this?
Yeah.
Okay. When he sorts out the wheat by itself, barley by itself, spelt, beans by itself, and then by itself. So to Rebbe Akiva, he arranged the Torah rings by rings,
Classes by classes, basically. Right. Groups by groups. Probably.
groups by groups.
Yeah.
But that enabled
categories,
him
yeah.
to create a structure.
Yeah.
There you are. By the way, that's why Rebbe Akiva is buried next to Ramchal. You ever wonder? It's
You mean why
interesting.
Ramchal is very next to Rebbe Akiva?
Why Ramchal is buried next to exactly?
Yeah.
Because Rebbe Akiva used method. I know it sounds funny,
What? Maybe.
but Rebbe Akiva, Ramchal,
No, no,
which is
farming.
Ramchal simply espoused the method of Rebbe Akiva. So they're buried next to each other. Makes sense.
40 years.
It's probably safe to say that Ramchal was a nitzis of the neshama of Rebbe Akiva.
Oh,
Safe to say that. Interesting, huh?
40 years.
Do you have a car for that?
And also, Rebbe Akiva became 40 years, and Ramchal died at 40. So they say he was mashlim the first 40. I mean, there's a lot of really, but anyway, so that's interesting. Anyway,
Let's get a quick question before we go to Mishnah Gimel.
so anyway, Shimon, do you see how it would work? So you'd put all you just put it in the insert it. But the key is get the structure first, because you're lost without it. Because it's like it's like trying to find, how do I get to a certain city and I have no map?
Probably.
So there's trial and error. You see. So finally, you get what's called the comprehensive halachic structure of the whole Masechet.
Just my question is only based on, besides the structure, doing the actual analysis, the in detail analysis of the halach itself.
Yes.
Trying to figure out the conditions and derivatives. I mean, that seems to be relegated to the back foot.
Because what we're doing in other
We're doing
words,
structure now, but we're not.
Yeah.
I mean, the analysis of actually thinking about the halacha itself.
no, we would do that
Mishnah.
second.
Right.
But the reason why I do it is because, again, without a map, we're really lost. See, we have to appreciate the fact that the map orients us. Without that, we're really lost. And without that, you just have a bunch of fragments. And that's what the problem is always. So, my first priority, even though I can't do it without the fragments, I mean, I can't do it without the halachas. But my first priority is always to create the map, and as quick as I can do it, great. And then, what I would do then is go back, once I have what's called a tentative map, go back to the beginning and then do the work. Okay, more precision-wise, and so on.
Even after I'm finished, do I ever go back to the text of the Mishnah?
Of course, yeah. It's,
You just went back to the question.
yeah. No, of course you do.
I'm saying
But-
that's only to finalize the
Yeah,
structure.
but
even after
in
finalizing-
truth, you go back, but you don't have to go to the text every day. In truth, your chazorah is really the diagram, because that has everything. And then every once in a while, just to reinforce the lashon, the language of the text, you read like every Shabbos. But you remember, when you do this from Brochos, you know the whole Brochos, claw, much clearer than most people. You see? But you want to also capture the language of the text that created this. So every Shabbos but what's more important, I remember there was a Vilna Goyen, I don't know if they asked him, whatever, which is more important? To know the ideas of the Mishnah, or to know the text of the Mishnah?
Both have to be important.
What?
I mean, ideas are more important, really.
Yeah.
but-
So the Vilna Goyen said the ideas. Yeah. If you can chazer the entire Mishnayos, all of it, just the ideas clearly,
What did-
that's more important
what
than
does
the
it say?
text. Huh?
I
I remember, but I remember there was a very, very interesting said that the sort of learning is to know the concepts. Then you can also review the text, the language that the Mishnah uses.
It's a different review, really.
What?
It's a different review.
It's incredible.
Because
Because in the end, what do you really want to know? You want to parrot the Mishnah text, or you want to know the Mishnah text? Listen, that's what it is. But of course, once you do that, automatically you're gonna know the text, because you refer back to it, and after a while, the text itself becomes part of what you know. Anyway, okay. Everybody got that? Any questions?
I just had a quick question regarding, in general, like in science, for example, when you approach a topic, do they have like methodology books that tell you exactly to do that?
Scientific method.
Scientific method?
But remember one thing, science is concerned with something else. Although, in a certain sense, we are concerned with the same, you know. What is the fundamental objective of science?
Something mastery.
Well, that's a... Yeah,
To reflect, to understand physical reality.
to understand
Physical
physical
reality,
what do I want to understand
The
about it?
underlying rule, the underlying rules of reality, but like any unifying rules of reality.
What a scientist wants to know is the determinant of physical phenomenon or phenomena. That's what I want to know. What makes things? Why is there lightning? I mean, I see it, I observe it, but why? You see. So he wants to know
Underlying
the
concept.
determinants. Very important word. It means the principles, or what? In other words, what governs this phenomenon? That's what he wants to know. And then so what he will do? How does he find out? There's no Chazal. I mean, there is Chazal, but he's not going to use Chazal. You know, how's he going to do it? He's going to conduct an experiment. He's going to develop a hypothesis. Well, I think this is why. And then he's going to test that hypothesis. That's called the experiment. And he's going to take a look at the results and reach a conclusion. And there's only one of two conclusions. Either he's right or he's wrong. If he's wrong, then he's going to create another hypothesis. That's called a scientific method.
Okay.
But they use the method to determine what?
Determinant.
What is the determinant of physical phenomena?
They're looking for underlying concepts, basically.
Exactly.
So in what way are we
determinant
different?
is an underlying concept. Yeah.
No, but they don't explicitly use this.
So in what way are we different?
Because
In our
we
method?
okay.
No, the same surah.
Well, what do we want to do?
Different choim, but it's the same surah.
What do we want to do?
We want to master
No.
what it is.
No. That's too general.
We want to master halachic reality. Well, they are some
Who?
physical reality. We want to master halachic reality here, in this example.
We observe. What's the equivalent of phenomena in science in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism? They observe phenomena, and we observe
Halacha?
halacha. Exactly.
Performance. Right.
No, halacha. We observe halacha. We see halacha.
Okay.
They see a phenomenon, and we see a halacha.
But we
Now, what do they want to do? I look at it.
They
It's
want to
very
know
interesting.
the determinant.
No, but we could
determinants.
look at it much wider. We could say that they are concerned with physical reality. We're concerned with physical plus spiritual. We're concerned with both. I mean, for them, physical reality is the focus. For us, spiritual reality is the focus.
No. Forget the spirituality. Yeah, of course, it's spiritual. No.
We just could go wider. and
No,
say-
it's not. No.
Okay, we're not getting into Kabbalah. Okay.
No.
Halacha. We'll
Don't
leave it
get
in the.
carried away with these esoteric ideas. No. Listen, they want. Look at you have to understand the difference. But in the end, they want to look at what they observe what phenomena.
Okay.
Yes, we observe
Also.
halachas.
Yeah.
Halachas to us is the phenomena to a scientist.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do they want to do? They want to ultimately do two things. I only told you one. They want to do two things. One, what is the determinant of that phenomenon?
Okay.
Yes,
And they
that's
wanna-
one.
And they want to
How they
predict.
control it.
They want
No,
to predict.
no, not yet. What's the second thing they want to do?
Would you describe it? I mean,
That's
they want to describe new phenomenon that is not known yet. But
no,
that's
no. That's prediction. No.
Oh.
What do they want to do ultimately?
A reduction.
Who?
They want a reduction.
Reduction.
That's the main thing.
They want to look at a group of phenomena, and show that it's really one idea. They want to reduce. They don't want to walk away with 4,000 different physical phenomenon. Physical phenomena. They want to look at that, and then say, okay, we now understand what determines all of it. No, not enough. What they want to reduce it to 5 ideas.
They're
Wow.
almost there, no?
Then what?
They're almost there.
Well, it's physics.
We also
Einstein
have
equals MC squared is one of the greatest reductions ever done. two vast areas called matter and energy. He put them into one formula. You know, the other one was the electromagnetic spectrum, Maxwell. You know, what he did was incredible. He said light waves, X-rays, cosmic rays, radio waves, they all look like they're different. No, he said, no, they're all one thing called a wave phenomenon. That's what they are. And therefore, what are the properties of a wave? It has frequency, amplitude, and so on. It's an incredible reduction. You see what I'm saying? So they want to do two things. They observe the phenomenon.
Yeah.
They want to determine what makes it be. And then they want to look at many phenomenon and reduce it to one or two ideas. How's that sound? And then, but once they have that, they can predict, which means engineering. Then engineering comes in and says, okay, how do we apply this? You see the vote? Okay. Torah, what do we want to do?
You observe the halacha.
We want to observe the phenomenon, but in our world it's called the halacha.
We want to find determinant.
What do we want to do? We want to find the determinant, the principle. Why is this so?
And then we reduce them all.
And we'd love to reduce them.
To remember.
What?
To remember to predict.
Well, it does allow us to predict.
Yeah.
But what's the prediction that goes on in Torah? But here, but a scientist, in order to do what he does, he needs to experiment.
And
Right, I experiment.
we need to find the Baraisa, Rambam, whatever.
We need to find
That's
the
what the
makor.
source.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the chazal. You know, we can't experiment with the halach. I mean, how do we do, you know, so on. So we need to find what's called the source. You know, Shas, Mishnayos, Shulchan Aruch. We need to look for, hopefully they will tell us the determinant, you see. Then what we want to do is reduce it. But once you talk about reducing it, what are we talking about? Structure. Because reduction means to look at many things and come out with one idea. Got it? So our reduction is really structure.
But there's also.
And then, once you have structure, yeah.
It's the same surah.
So they must have some books that tell you this is how you observe a phenomena.
Ontology.
This is how you.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
ontology.
Of course they do. It's called the scientific method, philosophy of science.
No, ontology.
There's a
is
whole
science.
branch of physics, yeah, called philosophy of science, which deals with many more problems. How do we validity? How do we know the experiment is valid, even if you do it? There are all kinds of questions, you know, and so on, you know. But there's a whole branch and so on. So what we're really seeing is they do the same thing, except they can experiment. We can't. Our experimentation is finding the chazal.
And also,
You know, that will tell us, you know, the determinant, the reduction, and so on. And once we can reduce, what can we do? Now that we've reduced, so then once they reduce, they can predict. What can we do?
Psat halacha. We want to paskin. We can paskin. We can predict.
Better. It's good. Yes. But you need to say it better. How do we? What?
Expand.
How?
By
We could
applying
derive- we could
taking
de-
those principles, applying them to new areas.
What's that called? What's the lashon of
We
that?
could derive derivation. I mean, we could
do
No.
derive.
What?
Kedusha, I don't know.
No. It has a specific expression. Maven dova mitoich dova. That's what it means. Maven dova, I can understand this. Mitoich dova means, oh, I see what the operating principle in this halacha, and all of a sudden somebody comes up with a new circumstance. Oh, I see it's the same principle present, so therefore the din of this is also the din of that. That's called application engineering. That's the equivalent. Got it? So we also do the same thing. What we want to do is maybe Dovin Terchama, you know, all of a sudden they come up with the elevator. Can I use an elevator on Shabbos? You know? So I got to go back to the drawing boards, as they say. You know, I got to look at what's the halachas of Shabbos. You know, you have Aish and all that. You know, Aish or Boin or whatever you got. Now, let's see. We understand what these things are. Now let's apply it to an elevator. How's it work? That's the case. And then we apply, well, are they common? Use the same, and so on. So we really do the same thing. You know? Instead of the scientific method, it's called not the scientific method.
Tiferes method.
It's certainly it's first method. It's called method.
It's called method, right?
Exactly.
The first way.
Yeah. But you see the similarity here? It's a beautiful similarity. That because they want to explore knowledge, and we want to
They
explore
stole
halachas.
our surah.
What?
That's what goes. They stole our surah.
Yeah.
That's what the whole goes is about. The whole thing.
It's not that they stole out surah. What is this surah, really?
It's Shekhinah. It's Tiferes.
Who?
I mean, That's Tiferes.
This is
Attribute of Shekhinah.
the first part of the Or Mashiach. First, that's really what it is. This is the Or Mashiach, really. And the incredible thing is that it came down for science and for Judaism at the same time. I once said this, remember?
Yeah.
When did it come out for science? Roger
Bacon.
Bacon. When did he live? 1240. When who?
Rambam.
The Rambam. The Rambam reorganized the whole Shas into a Mishnah Torah. He saw it just like Rabbi Akiva, right? He put everything under its topic and then he sequenced the ideas. So then Rambam lived in 1240. It's astounding. So what happened? So really both science and Rambam took the same ore which came down in 1240, which is what the Zohar says. That's what the Zohar said, that in the beginning of the Elef HaShishi, which is the English year 1240, which is the Hebrew year 5000, which is the equivalent of Erev Shabbos, the ore of Mashiach came down, which is the ore of Tferes. But it went to two sides. It went to science, which is Roger Bacon,
We're switching to Erev
and it went to Torah, which
We're
is
switching to
Rambam.
Moshe Shabbos.
Say again?
We're switching to Moshe Shabbos. We should stay with Sunday night.
Thank
That's
you.
good.
I just wanted to see what the comparison was, and I think we got a clear
Got it?
idea.
Okay.
Back to Sunday night.
Mishnah Gimel, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Beis Shammai.
Wanna read? Yeah, Mishnah.
Beis Shammai. Who's going to say?
בית שמאי אומרים, בערב כל אדם יתו ויקראו, ובבוקר יעמדו. שנאמר, ובשור בך ובקומך.
Yes. What does Beis Shammai say?
The Shammai is talking about he's in performance position, and he's saying that at night a person should. I mean, there's different positions at night and during the day, and it's derived from the pasuk "Ushor b'chol kumecha."
Yeah.
And he's saying that at night you should lie down, and during the day you should be in a standing position.
Yeah. So, what is Beis Shammai? Where is he? What category is he coming out of?
Performance.
It's no. The performance is Yikru, but that's not Chiddush.
The how of
I mean, position is a part of performance, no? You say it, but you say it in this position.
No.
Um,
Performance
yeah.
is Yikru. Is Kriya.
So where does position belong?
It's a condition of Kriya. When you read it, you need to read it in a specific bodily
Oh,
position.
it's condition of
It's a
Sure.
condition of the performance.
Well, it's really a condition. It is a condition of the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember, performance means the object and what's the action on the object. Now, what position do I have to assume? What does it have to do with Kriya? Or, it's a condition of the Kiyam HaMitzvah.
Oh, it's not a part of mitzvah. That's why it's not performance really.
No, it
No.
is on the performance.
It's
has
on the
to-
performance, but it's a condition.
But it's a specific, separate condition.
It's a
You could read with or without yatu, by inclining or not.
No, but why are you saying that mitzvah is to read and mitzvah is not to read while inclining?
Well, because a
What-
mitzvah
what-
has specific attributes. One, what do you do? Two, how do you do it? Means what's the action? Three, what are the other conditions that must be done? So Beis Shammai is saying that besides the text and the recitation, which is the kriya, you need to assume what? A position. So what is Beis Shammai? What's his chiddush here? What's the chiddush of Beis Shammai?
There are different positions. That there are required positions.
Oh,
Number one.
that among the conditions for the Kiyam HaMitzvah is positional requirement. What a chiddush. We'd never know that. Positional requirement is what Beis Shammai is saying. And they bring proof. Now, what do you mean? They're not going into the principle. They're going to the derivation. How do we know, how do we know this is true? Not why is it true. How do we know it's true?
Pasuk.
So the pasuk, V'shakov K'mecha, which is a moed chiddush, because they say, because normally how do we tie to V'shakov K'mecha? Time. And the time is based on an activity as opposed to it be based on a time, day. Remember we said that? It's interesting.
But it's not on the
See,
how.
There's something that.
Well, how in the sense of...
No, it's not on the how.
It's
on the
no,
performance.
it's a condition.
When, where, how, position. It's all the performance.
No.
No, it's
It's not performance. You could read whether you're lying down or standing up. What is
Performance is
position?
clear only.
It's conditions of performance.
It's the conditions of the Kiyam HaMitzvah. One of them is performance. Another one is you gotta be lying down and standing up while you're reading. Of course, you know, if you really want, I think that's what's confusing you. If you really want, you can subdivide this into object and performance, and everything else goes on the performance.
Correct.
You could do that. We didn't
Correct.
do that. We just listened because we don't have the.
No, this is what I did over here. I put.
Yeah.
I
So
put the boxes in the box.
theoretically, you could say that all these are conditions of performance on the object.
Including subject?
Correct.
No.
Effect and
No.
subject are different.
Okay,
No.
you mean those underlined words?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why theoretically we could rearrange this and have subject, object, performance, and effect. Remember the old way?
Yeah.
So really, those form four major ideas, and everything else is under performance.
There's something
Theoretically,
else.
if you really wanted to be tight.
There's something else
structure,
over Kessin that
Yeah.
comes up quite often. I'm not sure how. How do we put it here? Morning and afternoon. There's the morning and the night
That's
one.
frequency.
The frequency.
It's under
But
when.
everything.
Now it's on when.
Every single. How do you call these over here?
These are conditions.
Conditions. Every single condition is gonna have morning, night. Morning, night.
Yeah, well, yes, theoretically.
The
Unless
text.
unless they're uniform. If they're not uniform, we got
Right.
problems.
So that's why I
Then we have to
figured that-
divide the two different shmas. That's going to be problematic. I mean, that means the division is even more. But we're hoping that they're uniform, right? So we can keep it under either way.
So-
but if they're not, you're going to have to subdivide on the frequency.
Subdivide each one.
Each one itself, the performance itself is going to have to be subdivided.
That's why I would put morning and night somewhere more over here. Meaning
No.
I would do Shema morning, Shema night.
No. It would go. It would go further down wherever it becomes sub. That itself would. It becomes more elaborate. The diagram becomes more.
Because
elaborate.
almost each one is going to have a
Yeah,
morning and
I
night.
want to tell you something. Don't go mishiga.
Yeah. That's a mitzvah. Ve'yisam sugar.
You know, because I want to tell you something. In the end, you just want to create a tentative diagram,
Yeah.
more or less, that reflects what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Later, when you finish the whole Inyan of Shema, which is 3 prakim,
You could
then you can go
rearrange
mishiga.
Okay.
You see, it doesn't. That's then you can, because then you got all the information in front of you.
Then it pays.
What?
Then it pays.
Then it pays. Yeah. Right now, you know, but you have to recognize. Well, I really could have done it this way, but meanwhile, just get the information more or less in categories. Then later on, you could then really, what's called, fine tune it. You can fine tune it until you create an exact diagram, but you have all the information. Because it doesn't pay. You're going to go mishiga after a while, because every little idea is going to force you to, just, The important thing when you're doing all of this, the important goal is you need to keep your sanity. I'll lose it. You see? Because in the end it'll get done. So the Chiddush of Beis Shammai is what? Is position requirement. Beis Shammai comes up with an incredible concept called the position requirement as part of the Kiyam HaMitzvah.
And it's only for what? Only for Shema, for essential text.
Yeah. We don't know if this exactly. So it would only go under Shema and not under. Does Yetzias Mitzrayim have to do the same? We don't know. What about the Brochos? You see, this mission is not going to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But now we see it's a question. Otherwise, we wouldn't perceive such a question.
We would never, exactly. But once we see, wait a minute, if I just said there are 3 mitzvahs, so wait a minute. Beis Shammai said position requirement for Shema. Wait a minute, that's interesting. Is it also true of Vayomer and also of the Brochos? But if we didn't do this, we'd never even ask the question. Because we don't perceive it as 3 different things. That's the interesting thing about a structure. Questions that you never would have come up with, all of a sudden you see it, because, say, wait, if it's true here, there's other things going on too. That's the beauty of structure.
We just did a brisker.
What was that?
Madame Milsa, that's where you're.
Yeah, that's
applies over
okay.
here. What would be over there?
Well, because it's so part of
Well, we
the
ended up
structure.
with it as
Not
opposed to
brisker.
doing it, though. We
See what I'm saying?
just did a brisker fakir without doing the brisker fakir.
What was the Bris Chakira?
Meaning, is it only applied to the essential text, or does the leaning apply also to Yetzias Mitzrayim? we wouldn't have seen that, but
Had
the
we
Bris
not-
could have split that, but we sort of arrived at the Akira from the back door.
It's
Yeah.
not brisker. It's chakira, but not brisker.
All right.
It's really a Kessin Chakira. It's
That's where you get
I think some credit.
It's just the front.
They did the back door.
But I'm just showing the beauty of structure is you can see how everything relates to each other. So if something applies in one thing, all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, maybe it applies or doesn't apply to something else. But if you didn't have those relationships, you could never see it. I mean, you could see it, but you'd miss it. This goes on all the time. So what's the pasuk ubishap of kumecha, right? Now the obvious question on Beis Shammai is what?
What happened to Shabachov Komecha's time?
Time. Yeah, we needed these two. The rule is you cannot use one pasuk for two dinim.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to look for something which is called superfluous. There are ways, there's a drasha, how you can piggyback. You can piggyback two halachas on one pasuk, but there are rules for that. So the question is, where's the when?
Maybe extra vav.
No,
What?
no,
No,
the answer is...
it's a
No,
Kumecha.
uvishapov kumecha.
The
No,
answer
so-
is...
no, the pasuk makes sense. Uvishapov means in your lying down refers not to activity of lying down, it's the position of lying down. That's how they're learning
It
it.
would say at night.
No, uvishapov, what?
I'm sorry. What's the answer?
No, I'm just saying, no, so they can do it in this pasuk. Our question is not how you do it, where does it fit? Our question is, wait a minute, we use it for something else. Why? Because it says, v'dibata bam, b'shiftig b'reisecho, u'v'lechtech v'adech, u'v'shaparav k'mecha means in your lying down, you will say them, v'dibata bam, in your lying down means you get down and lie down. Uv'k'mecha, and you're getting up. This pasuk fits perfectly to the concept of position requirement. Our problem is we used it for time, period, and not for position requirement.
Right.
So how did they do that?
So they split-
Oh, so
they got two things out of
that's the
one.
fundamental question.
So it has to be reboot, some reboot, whatever.
Well, but that,
But
yeah,
now we see the question. It's not important to get an answer now.
Yes.
This is the question now.
yes, yeah. But that's going to give us to a second important direction in this Mishnah. Somehow, they obviously are taking time with some other pasuk, or maybe it's the same pasuk, but somehow they're able to apply two halachas to derive two halachas out of the same words, right? So, what do we want to know from this? So that's a second fundamental theme going on. One is a machloikas, is there or is there not a position requirement? So Beis Hillel will say no. So the Beis Hillel kolod kedarkai means kedarkai means whatever position you're in, you can read Kriyashma. You know what I'm saying? Shnema uvelech vadach, and you're going on the way, which clearly doesn't mean you're going on the way and then you got to get down and get up. It means apparently you can read whatever you want. So they say, "Kain loma nema of shabchuf kmecha." So he says, "Shebenosh bnei adam shoyich, mishosh bnei adam ma'imdim." Perfect. They clearly say what?
Zman.
That the zman b'shabchuf kmecha is zman, right? And uvelech vaderach will exclude a position requirement, but that's also a problem. Why do you have to exclude something if you never will marb it? I mean, you understand? If b'shach of kumecho is time, period, and then what's uvelech vaderach? That you do not have to have a position requirement. That's what they say. But the question is, why would we think we need a position requirement? To exclude it. You only have to exclude something if you think you got to bring it in. But why'd you have to bring it in? You don't have a pasuk anyway that says this.
Yeah.
You understand that
Yeah.
what we're doing now is learning pshat.
That means that they agree with Beis Shammai that you could really
You
say
would have
those
thought.
words as a position.
You would have thought.
Havamina, yeah.
But the question is, well, you can't have a havman like that. You need a pasuk for this. So if their pasuk is if shop kumecha means time period, why even think there's a position requirement? So this is pshat. Learning the Mishnah is simple.
So something's going
Yeah.
on there.
What?
Something's going on.
So, yeah, it's clearly something's going on here. Exactly. But what we're simply doing is learning a Mishnah and thinking about
I
it.
could make a suggestion.
Yeah.
That the Torah should have said, this is the question that you brought up last time, the Torah could have said, for nighttime, daytime, instead of Ufshach Bechov Kumecha, for this man. Why is the Torah saying Ufshach Bechov Kumecha? Why doesn't the Torah say at night, read it at night, and read during the day? Why when you go to sleep and when you get up?
You mean Bo'erev, Balayla, all that?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that's what they're going to say. No, that's what that they're going to bring that down.
So this is what's
You know, it's Beis Shammai. They're going to bring that from Beis Shammai.
correct.
Because how can Beis Shammai use Uveshotchov Kamecha for positional? What's more important than position? Time.
Time.
So what they do with time?
Yeah.
So they're going to answer, no, Uveshotchov Kamecha is time. But then how do you do position requirement? And they're going to say because there are two, you can derive two halachas out of this one verse. Why? Because if the Torah had meant only time period, it would have said the time, not the activity. Or, you know, it would have used a phrase of time, which means Bo'erev, if you hold like Bo'erev, if you hold like Rabbi Eliezer, or Balayla, if you hold like Rabbi Gamliel. Those two words are either evening when you're lying down, or night when you're laying down. You see?
Period.
And in the morning it would have said Baboika.
Yeah.
Or Yom, but certainly Baboika.
If you say
Since
how would we say? How would we imply first third of a Laila?
Well, that's a good question.
Better if it doesn't,
because it has to
doesn't
meet
mean it.
all the specifications. You're right. It means if the Torah could have used that,
makes much more sense like this because it implies certain time range,
yeah.
which is much better.
So does Bo'erev truly end at the end of the first watch?
Right.
Now we got to why? Because according to Beis Shammai Sfara, the wording has to be accurate. Because they're saying it could have said Bo'erev. Let's use a word, but Bo'erev and Baboike for time. Instead, it said it didn't. So it didn't tell you the time period. Instead, it told you an activity which takes place in those time periods, right? So therefore, it's a double limud. There's what could have been, if it's only for that. Instead, it used an expression which can indicate something else, and therefore you can learn two things from it. Wow. What did Beis Shammai just do? And therefore this is a focus, again, of a very important theme which nobody concentrates on. Because in general, they don't even focus on these things. What is that?
Derivation.
Who?
Derivation.
Derivational method. There's a new method here. What Beis Shammai just came up with is a new method. What's a new method? How do we learn more than one halacha from a pasuk? Right? So normally you have a yitur dikra, which means there's something actually which has said in the pasuk. There's an extra vav, or whatever it is, you know? So with the addition of a superfluous phrase, item,
Or even
we
letter.
can learn second.
Yeah.
But there is no superfluous item here.
But
They
there's a
learned it
simple
because
term.
what?
There's a
Because-
simple term.
Because
the
the
word
Torah,
Choice of terms.
exact choice of terms, right? And that's how they learn it. Wow, that's a derivational method that we never thought about before. Now most people are not sensitive to
Maybe
that.
that's what they're arguing about.
Was that?
Maybe that's what they're arguing about. Maybe it could be.
No, they're not arguing on the what called the validity of that type of derivational method. No, they're not.
Oh, they all agree. That's no.
Yeah, they didn't invent this. There's a Lamed Beis Midas. But, so therefore what's important here is that Beis Shammai just introduced a derivational method. That in order to have more than one halacha from a term, you don't need an extra item. You just have to say, well, it could have said something else. If it used this phrase, that means two. Hey.
We need a new
To
term.
me, that's important. You know, most people don't even think of that, you know. So therefore, it's an important chidush of this Mishnah. The introduction of a new derivational method called, you need to give it a name here. So the first idea where the Torah introduces an extra, we can call that what? The method of superfluousness. How's that sound? Superfluidity? No. Superfluousness. Or actually, it's the method of redundancy. That better word. Redundant. You need to have a vocabulary for this.
Oh, that's great.
Redundancy, yeah. So redundancy is a what? Is a derivational method. Beautiful. We need a word for this. What's this method called?
Alternative terminology.
Yeah, alternativeness. Yeah.
How about substitution? Well, instead of doing this, the Torah substituted for another word. So that's
Yeah.
the principle of
This is
substitution. What?
Absolutely great.
Thank you. Okay, so but this is a chiddush, which is important to know from the Mishnah.
Yeah.
Now, why is it most people don't even think this way? Because nobody really is mindful of derivational methods. When was the last time you looked at
It's
Yud
not-
Gimel Midas
Ruben,
and you
it's
said
not-
Rabbi Shmuel Omer?
It's not precise.
And what?
It's not precise. You say, why don't people think this way? I said, why don't people think? I mean,
You mean it's something more fundamental?
right, it's more fundamental.
Yeah,
But you're judging the Hafschus. You're saying, yeah, people don't think this way.
Because people are not interested because they've never been taught to appreciate the beauty of the Yud Gimel Midas. Hillel says 7 Midas. Rabbi Yishmael, yeah, that's Hillel. Rabbi Yishmael says 13 Midas. Yes? And then Rabbi Yosef Aglili says 32. So there are 32 derivational methods, or to be more fancy, there are 32 exegetical methods, exegesis.
But
Nice.
do they argue? Hillel,
No, there are reasons why they're Moisef. Yeah, they're Moisef.
You just mean like, are they included in 7, or
Yeah,
are the 32 included in 7?
It's like-
Whatever,
it's-
that's
it's
why
like
didn't
a
one mention the other? But the totality really is Rabbi Yosef Aglili, 32. Dematria, Lev, Lev, heart, 32, right? So this is so most people, nobody learns about the derivational methods, all the rules that are involved in the Kavachomer, right? In Xer Shova, there are all kinds of rules, and Binyanov, Klal Prat to Klal. When can you do it? When can't you do it? We're not involved in that. Chazal were involved because they use those the Lamed Beis Midas to derive the halachas of Torah, and so on, But Afal became we notice it. We
When
see
it comes
it.
up naturally, so we notice it.
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying that there's a second theme here, and that is the introduction of a derivational method called the method of substitution. So we have the method of redundancy and the method of substitution. So you can actually derive more than one halacha if the Torah could have used another term. Got it?
Yes.
Great. Now, so we have Beis Shammai. I think we have an understanding of Beis Shammai. So Beis Shammai, using the principle of substitution, right, derives 2 halachas from this.
Condition, position.
A positional requirement and time period. Beis Hillel says no.
One time period.
Yeah. So therefore, it's only time period. There is no positional requirement. What is also interesting to note here is if you bend down to read like Beis Shammai, you also come to Beis Hillel, aren't you?
Yes,
So that's the concept of inclusivity. To do Beis Shammai is also doing Beis Hillel, because Beis Hillel couldn't care which way you do it.
But it's
He
not-
has no requirement.
However, it's
There's
not
no
no
requirement, so
requirement.
anything you want to do. You see, so Beis Shammai,
So what
according to
is-
them, right? Or I should say, it is exclusive. Beis Hillel excludes Beis Hillel's,
Right.
most of them anyway. But Beis Hillel will always include Beis Shammai. It's interesting. That's an important idea to note.
It's a big difference though, because for one it's a reshus, for the other one it's a mitzvah. For Beis Shammai it's a mitzvah, for Beis Hillel it's a reshus.
Well, it's a condition. Whereas Beis Hillel, it's a luxury. It's arbitrary. It's arbitrary. Whereas he says it's an essential condition. He says it's arbitrary.
There is a brisker vert that Beis Hillel also has a requirement.
It's-
It has to be done your regular way of davening.
Because there's huge
You're not supposed to switch right before Shema to a different position.
Oh, that's Reb Tarfon. That's what he did, and he got the big trouble, as we see from
Well, he
Mishnah.
was doing
We're gonna have to
Beis
stop
Shammai,
because
yeah.
I'm doing the top. Everybody got that? But all we're doing now is learning Mishnah. We're not really doing any structure yet. But even when you learn a Mishnah, you got to think. This is pshat.
It's a chiddush. We shouldn't overlook this chiddush.
Everybody got what we're doing? What can I say?
We should emphasize this last chiddush.
What?
We should emphasize this last chiddush. It's a big
Which
one.
is?
We have to think even when you're on the Mishnah.
Yes. But I'm just showing that you can do this with, we don't even have Mefoshim. Just thinking, what is he really saying? What's his chidush here? And then when we have all that analysis, we are then going to go back to the structure which we just created and insert it into the structure. You see what we're doing?
He's in a such a position. He's doing it.
So we have position requirement, machlokes, and we have the introduction of a new chiddush of derivation, the principle or the method of substitution. Besides redundancy, substitution, which is how Beis Shammai learns.
Would you put the derivation into the map?
Yes, I would actually. Yeah, exactly. Ultimately, I would put all the 8
It's really
requirements
another
for
dimension.
halacha.
It's really another dimension.
Yeah,
It has
but the
to be
first thing you have to
another
do is create the structure. Then the main thing you next do is the halachas.
That's what the
Then
3D.
in that on the parentheses you have the rest of the stuff in it. So when you look at the picture, the structure is a totality. Everything, all the.
So derivation applies to any point in that chart?
You would put the
Yes.
derivation of that halacha, correct?
Whatever halakha it is.
Yeah.
Why isn't subject part of performance?
Because the subject is not a performance.
But position could be under subject.
So ultimately,
But when is not a performance either?
it is. Because when do you read?
Who reads?
So there's who, what,
No, but I'm saying who
What
is
does he
part, should
do?
be part of performance.
and what's the effect? What?
Who should be part of performance? Who?
No, it's a separate concept. Who is doing the action?
It's like,
Who's doing the
On
performance?
what is the action?
Who's
Like-
doing the
like in
performance?
On what is he doing
Subject,
it?
verb, like-
And what's the effect? Those are the 4 major.
Where do the conditions fall into
So
place?
what you really could do ultimately is organize this according to those 4 titles.
But where is conditions like the lying down and standing up fit in?
On the how?
Under how?
It could be maybe under
Yeah.
how performance.
Right, I was thinking maybe it's how under the subject. Maybe the subject
Because
should be
he
in
has
this
to
position. Maybe it
perform.
sort of touches up the gavra.
The what?
The gavra, the subject, should be in this position.
No,
Maybe it's part of the
no.
subject. He is in a laying position.
A position is an attribute of a subject,
Of the subject, not of the performance or of the subject.
of the performance.
Maybe the
Why not
subject.
the
I'm not Akira.
No.
Is it
You have to
performance is done
recite
in this
lying
way?
down. No, it's a position.
You have to be in this way.
No,
while
no,
you're
no.
reciting.
You as a subject, you can do whatever you want.
No, you have to
Anytime.
feel that that's peripheral.
You just have to
It's
be a Jew.
trivial.
You just have to be a
It's
Jew.
not a concept.
And a man. You just have to be a
Maybe
Jew
you
and a man.
You have to be
As
a laying
subject.
down Jew.
No.
And then I-
No. That's what you're talking about.
No, you understand what I'm saying?
And
You
remember
have to be a
this,
Jew.
and
That's all
this
you have to be.
itself you'd organize
When you
under
read,
those
you have to
4
be lying down.
categories. Subject, object, performance, and effect. And you just rearrange based on that. Then together with this, the whole thing is knocked out.